When people talk about Artur Beterbiev, they always talk about the power. It's the first thing they mention. And it's easy to see why. You know, going into this fight with Callum Smith, he was 19-0 with 19 knockouts. I mean, when you're going out there and you're starching everybody, when you have that type of thudding power where you're just dominating people, where it seems like nothing else that people have come in contact with before, it's really easy for everybody to mention that as the first thing. Not to mention the fact that people are always mesmerized a little bit by the power, right? People are always fascinated by it a little bit. So when you mention that, it's an easy way to catch people's attention. But going into this fight, there was two other talking points that people were talking about regarding Beterbiev. Number one was the ring IQ. The ring IQ. People were always saying, listen, yes, we all know that he's got the power, but let's also understand the fact that you got to get those shots off. If you've got great power, but you don't know how to get your shots off, it really doesn't mean anything. It's not going to go anywhere. We're never really going to know you have that great power because you're not going to go out there and you're not going to be able to land it against guys, especially against the best guys in the world. And then the second point that people were mentioning going in was this fight was, look, for all the great things that Beterbiev does, for all the highlight reel knockouts that we see him score, let's not be confused, right? Let's not paint a different picture than what's really there. And the reality is he's got some flaws. The reality is he gets hit. The reality is we've seen him potentially get hurt. We've seen him get cut. We've seen him get caught with shots. All right, so this isn't a perfect fighter. And then on top of that, the man's going to be turning 39 years old in like a week or so. All right? I'll say it once. I'll say it again. Everybody's heard the saying before because it's true. Father Time is undefeated. The older you get, all of a sudden everything starts to change. And Callum Smith is a former world champion. He's bigger. He's taller, he's longer, he's got some beautiful counter punches, great left hook, a left hook that we've seen Beterbiev get caught with in the past. There was a lot of talking points and things going into this fight. And look, guys, that's what makes this performance by Beterbiev that much more impressive. Because when it was all said and done, all we could turn around and say is, man, the dude hasn't lost a step. The dude looks amazing. The dude looks great. We talked about the power, he's got that. And he showed everything else. He showed the jab, he showed the body punching, he showed the patience. The patience were on full display, which I was a huge fan of, right? It's easy when you're a power puncher to fall in love with that power and do things that you shouldn't really do, that you think you can just get away with because you've always got that great eraser, because you've got that power that makes guys change what they're doing. It's easy to go in there and try to cover up all your flaws with the power that you got. It's not what we saw from Beterbiev. It's not what we saw tonight. We saw a man who was patient. We saw a man who was backing Callum Smith up against the ropes, but understood that Callum Smith is an intelligent fighter who likes to set traps. A guy who likes to back up against those ropes and catch and counter with that left hook. He's got some real power of his own. But Beterbiev didn't fall for it. There was multiple times throughout that fight where he had him backed up against the ropes and he stayed there and he waited. And he worked that telephone pole jab. Overall, it was a great performance. Now, when you watch this first round, Beterbiev, not necessarily known as a quick starter, but he comes out, puts his foot on the gas, comes out and immediately establishes himself as the aggressor, says he's going to take the center of the ring, backs Callum Smith up against the ropes, right? And that's important to do when you're the smaller guy. You want to come out there and you don't want to let the guy who's the underdog, the guy who's playing the away game, so to speak, the guy who's not known as the bigger puncher, not known as the favorite, all these types of things, you don't want to let him gain momentum. You don't want to let him gain some confidence. So Beterbiev comes out, steps on the gas pedal, puts Callum Smith right on his back foot, backs him up against the ropes. Now, it wasn't anything particularly special done, but I will say this, towards the end of the round, he landed a beautiful check left hook. And now, it may not seem like a lot, but to land a check left hook like that against a world champion like Callum Smith, it shows control of the distance, it shows mastery of the timing, it shows the hand speed and the way you were able to hide it. Great shot. Stood out to me, and it gave us a little bit glimpse into what we were going to see later on in the fight. Second round comes out. Callum Smith says, look, I'm not going to be bullied here. I'm not going to be backed up. He comes out and he starts to get his shots off a little bit, starts to step on his front foot a little bit more, starts to be a little bit more aggressive and back, not necessarily back Beterbiev up, but he did not let Beterbiev take control of the center of the ring like he did in the first round, right? And that's what makes the rest of the fight that much more impressive. Because Beterbiev just immediately came back out and took control. By the end of the third round, we already started to see Smith getting broken down. The body work, the counter shots, the telephone pole jab that he just kept smashing into his face over and over and over, whether he was being aggressive, whether he was countering, whether he was just using it to break up Smith's rhythm. I mean, the full arsenal was on display. There were a lot of people going into this fight that were thinking that Callum Smith had a real chance. People that were actually picking him to win this fight. I'll be honest, when I did the preview for this fight, I was talking about how the styles make fights and how the skill set matches up and how Callum Smith did appear to have a real shot. Okay, and I'm not alone in that. And there's a real reason that people were making all of those picks. Beterbiev said, I'm not having any of it, man. He said, I am not having any of it. I am the man here at 175 pounds. I'm going to dispatch Callum Smith. I'm going to make it look easy when I'm doing it. I'm going to put everything on display. I'm going to let you see everything that I have available to you so that you know that I'm not some one-trick pony. But then in the end of it all, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm known for, and that's going to be the power, and I'm going to get this dude out of here. The dude that's never been dropped. The dude that's never been stopped. I'm going to drop him twice, and then I'm going to get him out of there. And all we're going to talk about is what really matters at this point. We're going to talk about the fight that's going to declare who is the man at 175 pounds. We're going to be talking about Artur Beterbiev and how he's the king of the mountain. Or are we going to be talking about Dimitri Bivol? Right? Because that's all that's left after a fight like this, after a performance that we saw here, the fight that we all wanted, the fight that we all knew was going to come. Now the stage is completely set, right? Bob Arum jumps in the ring afterwards. He talks about how we're probably going to be seeing this thing over in Saudi Arabia. And after a performance like this, what else is there really to say, right? We've seen Dimitri Bivol and the way that and the things that he's been able to do in that ring, right? Just a master of the subtlety and the movements and the punches and the way he's able to stay in the pocket and shoot his counters. We've seen Beterbiev and the crushing power, but we've seen the jab, the straight punches, how he's able to keep his guy in front of him, the short shots, the way he's able to generate so much power in such a short distance. He doesn't need to wind up. He doesn't need to get wide with his punches. It's going to be an awesome fight. So let me know what you guys think. Were you as impressed with this performance tonight as I was? How do you think he's going to match up against Bivol? And what do you think the future is at 175 pounds?